is a lot of what you hear in Renaissance and earlier choral music. Hi everyone, it's time for another weekly poll winner, and today I know that it is a song that has been highly anticipated and wished for a long time from my patrons and supporters, and that is the Byrds 8 Miles High. Not only is it my first time hearing the Byrds band, which has been on my list for a long, long time, thanks to you, but also I understand that this song is one of the much loved pieces of music from the band, and it actually tied in the weekly poll a few months ago, and at that time we had to choose which one is it going to be, and we put this one off. So finally, it comes around again. It clearly wins the poll this time, and I will be listening to the Byrds 8 Miles High today. In 1991, the Byrds were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in a ceremony that saw the 5 original members perform together for the last time. That must have been memorable. I have to say that I've been fascinated more by the name of this band, of course, because I haven't heard the band. You've all been telling me it's a great band and I need to hear it. But every time I see the name, I think of William Byrd, the famous, I say famous, in classical music world, famous Renaissance English composer, and who was a master of counterpoint. And so somehow I feel like, I don't know, this band has, should I say, great hopes simply because of the name. Critics often cite 8 Miles High as being the first bona fide psychedelic rock song, as well as a classic of the counterculture era. Well, it's time for me to listen to it. It's kind of cool.
Touchdown, you'll find that it's stranger than known. Signs in the street that say where you're going are somewhere just being their own. Nowhere.
Okay, well, since I mentioned William Byrd, I'm very aware of the fact that this is not a Renaissance composer, right? This is 20th century rock music, but it's a bit surprising to me, actually, how much of this has a kind of Renaissance-y sound. Let's see here. And I love the vocal harmony that they have. I love their blend. It's a very warm, smooth choral blend that makes me think of a lot of Renaissance and Baroque and English music. Interestingly, this little melodic figure. It's showing up both in the melodic lines of the sung part, as well as in the instrumentation. If we back up just a little bit here.
Signs in the street that say where you're going are somewhere just being their own.
Bum, bum, bum. There it is. And then the voice. It does have a sort of Renaissance sound.
Among those afraid of losing their ground. Railway town, known for its sound. In places, small faces unbound.
I like the textural and sonic quality of the instruments in this song. I like it a lot. It has a very, shall I say, honest? Maybe honest is a weird word to use. Very earthy, honest feel about it. Like, it's not trying to be something. It's not trying to be dramatic. It's not performing. It's not trying to be too heavy and gritty either. It's just very much, I feel like it's close to the earth, which is interesting, being that this song is called 8 Miles High. I'm not talking about the music itself. I'm talking about the sound of the instruments and the blend. The percussion and the rhythmic elements interest me because there's a lot of texture happening there. And if I go back just a little bit, let's just go through this section. The bass sounds almost bassoon-like, I might say. So you have this bassoon-like bass sound. You have this wonderful choral vocal harmonies. The guitar, which is more than just merely plucked acoustic folk style, but at the same time, it's not really heavily electrified. And so it still has that kind of natural, earthy quality to it, but a little bit more sustained than just a plucked string. One of the weak points of plucked string instruments is that the sound decays so rapidly, whether it's guitar or harp or mandolin or dulcimer or so many, even piano. Every instrument has its strengths and weaknesses. The plucked strings as a whole, that's one of their weak points. They don't have the long melodic sustain. And so what happens here with the way it's just sustained a bit more than a simple acoustic style guitar sound, it makes it a bit more melodic. But at the same time, what is being played is still quite textural. It's still quite accompaniment style, arpeggiated, in finger-picking type sounds. And I think that's one of the things that makes me enjoy this blend. You have a lot of that bassoon-like sound happening. You have the guitar accompaniment happening. And the drums, although they're quite textural, there's something about them that makes me relate to them almost as a melodic instrument. And I haven't decided why. But somehow the way they are fitting in with everything else, perhaps it's because everything else is so well balanced. Nothing really stands out from the other. So there's this very textured quality to all of this musical fabric. And the smooth voices contrast with that. So then I relate to this instrumental part as even more texture and accompaniment and support. Although it has melodic fragments, there's nothing that really stands out or screams for attention. But the drums are quite prominent within the mix, or shall I say generously used within the mix. Not so much for emphasis, but again, for texture and adding to all the many layers that are happening. And somehow the way the different drum elements are placed makes me relate to them almost in the same way that I relate to the guitar. It's an interesting thing to notice.
Places, small places unknown.
I like that nice long descent of the melody there. Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. So in that instrumental section, I suddenly started to feel like, okay, what I was saying about the texture and all the detail and everything that I see, there's shape and there's contour and a sort of coloration that is very, as I said, earthy or close to the earth. How do I relate to this with a song that is also starts out by singing 8 miles high? And then, of course, when you touch down, it's almost as if it's talking more about when you touch down more than when you were 8 miles high. But somehow in this instrumental section, I started to feel like, I could picture myself in a hot air balloon floating above the earth and looking down, and as the lyrics were describing, rain gray town, known for its sound, in places, small faces unbound, around the squares, huddled in storms. And I started thinking that these phrases here, rather short, kind of like the da da da, it's almost like a kind of collage or a look at all these details where we're not really expanding all of them, but we're observing, seeing, and then moving on to see something else. I could imagine myself floating in a hot air balloon and looking down at the world below and seeing in miniature all these places that I know and the texture the texture of the earth and how it looks from that height, the brown fields, the green fields, the town, the streets, everything kind of in miniature, far enough away that it all kind of blends and fits together, much like the instrumental sound that I was commenting on here feels. And I am above looking down on this idea of this is a very earthy sound, natural, comfortable. I wouldn't say ordinary, kind of at peace with the world as it is. And it feels very immediate and close, and yet I feel like I'm observing from a distance, and I'm seeing all this, and I'm enjoying all of this from a distance. And so it's kind of how I'm thinking of this right now. That's what the instrumental section put in my mind. And now, round the square,
some laughing, some just shapeless forms. Sidewalk scenes and black limousines. Some living, some standing alone.
I can almost sing along with it because nice. Okay, I want to go back.
8 miles high, and when you touch down,
That's one of the things that makes it kind of, should I say, Renaissance-y in its sound, is the way it's using fourths and fifths. And I'm just picking this out by ear as it goes along, but we're using kind of some open, or as you might say in rock music, a similar setup, harmonic setup as with your power chords that you use on the guitar, where you're not necessarily using all the notes all at once all the time, but you tend to use the root and the fifth. And the emphasis in the vocal part here, and in the instrumentation as well, is towards this root and fifth, although the voices do fill in the gap a bit more. But if I stick with the root and the fifth, we get these parallel fourths. What I mean by parallel fourth is this interval that is 4 notes apart, 1, 2, 3, 4. And as the melody moves around on mainly these 4 notes, the first 3 of the scale, of a minor scale, and then the modal 7th, the flat 7, rather than, it's not that, it's, so you hear the lower 7th, which is very common with the, well, it's the Aeolian mode. Already just playing that. It has this special atmosphere about it, right? And then, in addition to that modal quality, which of course was very common back in the Renaissance era, then you add the fourth, the parallel fourth. So, quick little bit of classical music history. As we move from the Renaissance into the Baroque era, musically speaking, in the Baroque era, we started developing this idea of how notes related one to the other and could shape the tension and the release of the music what eventually developed into chord progressions started from a different perspective in the Baroque era to be a really strong part of music composition. But in the Renaissance era and before, there was much more of not so much attention to chord progressions, but more any harmonizing voices often traveled simply in parallel with the melody. And the distance from one to the other note was very often exactly equal every step it takes. And you hear what I'm doing here. If I stick with purely this modal scale and I add the fourth underneath, something doesn't sound quite like the music there, right? That one doesn't sound quite right. And I'll tell you why. Because in the course of the scale, the way the notes are spaced, to play a fourth there, it's not the same kind of fourth. Well, I don't want to get too deep into the theory, so I'm just going to leave it at that for now. But this is a perfect fourth here. Melody to harmony. This needs some adjusting. I can do that. I can make it a slightly different pitch. Now it's a C sharp. Now it has that same open, we might say, pure sound harmonically. And that is a lot of what you hear in Renaissance and earlier choral music, like what you might hear coming out of the monasteries. And so it has this special atmosphere about it. You can hear it on the harp just by playing those, keeping the pitches exactly the same space apart as they travel up and down the scale. That's a bit of what I'm hearing in this. And that is why, as much as I'm a little bit nervous about saying, just because of the name, William Byrd, whom I know as an English Renaissance composer, and now the Byrds as a band in the 1960s, I don't want to try to link and say, well, the Byrds were imitating. No. I'm not saying that. But it's interesting, shall I say, coincidence, and kind of fun for me as a classical musician to hear them, to like their sound, to enjoy it, and to notice that at least in this song, there is a lot of those kinds of Renaissance era signature sounds as one would have heard back in William Byrd's time. It's a fun observation to and connection to make. And I'm not claiming that it was designed that way at all. No. But for me, it's fun to notice these things. And that is what I'm hearing and why I notice and connect the two. Okay, all the instrumental stuff.
Miles high, and when you touch down, you'll find that it's stranger than known.
So much of this pure forest.
In the street, let's say where you're going, or somewhere
You hear?
just being their own.
Back again to this. It's the same sound. It's the same sound. And that is, well, it's a very old sound, as well as now being presented in kind of a, I'm sure that it sounded new and fresh at this point in the 1960s, probably. because it's not a sound that featured very prominently in the first half of the 20th century in popular music or classical music. Well, classical music was kind of rediscovering that in the first half of the 20th century, what we would call neoclassical. But all of that appeals to me here. But back to the sound of this and the piece itself. I still find myself thinking of this as a kind of viewing earthly life from an elevated vantage point, such as hot air balloon or maybe mountain peak. But I'm looking down at the world below me, and it's so interesting to feel that way in the music and to have the lyrics suggest some of that, but at the same time, it brings me closer to earth as well, because the phrases, in places small faces unbound, round the squares huddled in storms, some laughing, some just shapeless forms, sidewalk scenes and black limousines, some living, some standing alone. It almost feels as if I'm walking among them too, with my own feet on the ground. And if I go back to the first line, 8 miles high, that was the first phrase. And immediately the one that follows, and when you touch down. And then, looking back at the shape of the music, the melody, 8 miles high, we're ascending. That phrase is ascending up, 8 miles high, and then, and when you touch down, that brings us back to earth. And so for me, my first experience of this piece is a wonderful mix of impressions and mental imagery. And I feel like somehow I am privileged to view life from a distance. Signs in the street that say where you're going are somewhere just being their own. Nowhere is there warmth to be found among those afraid of losing their ground. Oh, this idea, 8 miles high, and when you touch down, and then this line, among those afraid of losing their ground. And I come back to this idea of this feels very earthy, grounded music. to pick just some, it's the best phrase I can think of right now. That fear of not wanting to lose your ground, or of becoming disconnected or too far away from what's familiar. That fear among those makes it impossible for warmth to be found there. In other words, if you're afraid of leaving, if you're afraid of letting go, if you're afraid of stepping out, it makes it impossible for you to enjoy what you're holding on to so tightly, and for what you're holding on to so tightly to be welcoming. So many things to explore here. And the music, back to the music here. It is very simple harmonically. But because it's in this modal scale, and in addition to the modal scale, we have these consistent intervals really featuring. It gives it a beautiful sensitivity that is very hard to find in the modern major scale. It's a special quality of some of these ancient modal scales and ancient harmonic strategies. And so it's just a delightful piece in all of that. Let me just go back and finish up the end again since I jumped to the beginning. Here it sounds a bit like rain pouring down. As I said, rain, gray town, kind of wet. There that is again. sound. I'm still fascinated by it. Almost acoustic, but still not quite. You're all right. It's a beautiful piece of music and such an evocative mood setter as well. I feel like it's one that I will listen to when I'm in a certain mood and I just want to immerse myself in that mood. Maybe that's why it's considered psychedelic rock, although it doesn't quite fit what I picture as being classic psychedelic rock. Maybe because it's early, but a really nice piece. And thank you all for voting for it again and making sure it was the winner this week. And I'm sure I will be exploring more Byrds in the future because I do like their sound, both instrumentally and vocally. And I like their musical design. I'll see you soon.